Welcome everyone. We are in the bi-weekly K8s Infra meeting. We are April 26th. Just a reminder that this meeting is under the code of control and will be later on YouTube publicly. Okay. First, do we have a note taker?
I can do notes.
Thank you. Before we start, do we have any new person in this in the meeting?
I'm new.
Interest to introduce.
Hey everyone, Luca here. I was at KubeCon. I went to the SIG meetings and met Mario, and I said to join this call. Nice to meet everyone.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so next is billing report. What do we have here? Is anyone seeing that correctly? Because I'm like, I don't know. Is it too big, too small?
It is okay.
Okay, good. Well, okay. I will go. Yes, let's go. Let's go into March 1. Just to see the trend around the reg. So we still see reduction. I would say, yeah, cost reduction related to egress of the container registry. So that's good. I think if I basically see daily spent per project, I don't really see any increase recently. That's good. But there's something happening in related to the registry. I would not say it's a bug. It's more like a consequence of the current architecture. Oh, I'm going to show this. Spend per project. So if I filter only, I would say, okay, that's artifact prod, and let's say only the registry. I'm going to show this. Let's go month to month. So I just noticed something we want to basically say, okay, for the first time since we have a community infrastructure, we will be below the monthly threshold. Yeah, for the GCP infrastructure, because until March we were always beyond 250,000 K budget, and this is for the first time. April will be the first month where I will not receive an alert saying I'm over budget for a month. So we will spend by May 1 something around 150K monthly, and that's like a good trend. I think I said that in the last meeting, but want to say that again. So yes, Luca, it's time to add more infra, but we will not do that now. Yeah, so the last 3 months we were spending too much. I think check Ben's comment on Slack, we were spending too much. Oh, Ben is here, so let me finish. You can have the, yeah, okay. But the one thing I noticed is like, if I try to compare month to month, like basically current month versus previous month, our cost for artifact registry is really, I don't want to say high, but we spent this month 6K just egress for artifact registry in Europe. So it's not really a problem, it's more like a consequence of current architecture. We have, for example, one region serving 5 countries in Europe, because there's like, we don't deploy on every GCP region in Europe. We might fix that later, but it's a consequence. So I think starting next month, we will start add more region in GCP and AWS, so we might see that go down. Yes, okay, that was my comment. And Ben, what do you want to say?
A couple comments. One, we are actually even slightly higher than we should be at the moment because we still have the 123 CI that hasn't gotten cleaned up. So release is running an additional CI version beyond what we would normally have. At sometimes we have an extra release, but right now we have like an extra release. So GC costs are actually pretty elevated at the moment, and so this should trend even better in the future. However, to the opposite end, where we're talking about spending on more infra, we want to do that on Amazon. We actually still have a very large amount of infrastructure that hasn't moved out of Google. Some of that will be taken running inside google.com organization instead of Kubernetes.io, so build directly to Google. Billing wise, that isn't a problem. My understanding is we can continue to run that, but it continues to be a liability for the project that we have, like these ancient projects from the beginning of Kubernetes that predate even having the cloud native computing foundation, and no one knows much about them, and we don't have good visibility into them. We want to replace those with things running under the community. A lot of that spend is deal.case.io, so that the Fastly contract should cover that, but we will need to move, like, we still have a very large amount of CI, things like that, and some of it we can move to Amazon, some of it move to Google. So we have a good buffer, and we should be in good shape for the Kubernetes.io GCP build this year, but we should not jump on running more on GCP this year. So we have some buffer, and going into next year with this run rate, we will have plenty of room to finish migrating things between that and having gotten spun up to the point where we can run some of the CI in Amazon.
Okay, any question regarding billing?
It's actually more on the google.com than is on the Kubernetes.io.
Any comment? Because I want to do the AWS costs. Okay, on the AWS side, we have things. I'll pick month to month. Well, give me international. Yeah, let's break this down by services. I think on AWS we are fine versus the credit we receive in January, because we don't, just for people new in the call, we got 3 million from a donation from AWS we're supposed to use this year. We got a first one part, we got 250K in January. So I think currently we are not using that much, except for some CI, because we have to migrate some AWS account from the CNCF organization to the Kubernetes organization. So I think we are fine. I'm expecting some kind of change regarding costs on AWS, because like Ben said, we're supposed to migrate some CI to AWS. We're also supposed to add more AWS regions. So all of that will change. I don't see a stable trend regarding resource consumption on AWS very soon. So we just need to do some kind of monitoring around that.
Do you Justin's comment in the chat about the EC2 instance spend drop?
Yes, because I did an experiment, was using some EC2 instance. I delete all of them. That's why you see a drop. So if it's normal, there's a drop in cost because I did some cleanup on basically some of the test account. Also, it's possible like the other tests running might have some change. So we are not really granular about who exactly is basically using the infrastructure right now.
It's nice to see.
Yeah,
that the
Marco,
S2
regarding
costs look stable.
regarding your costs, do we want to consider currently existing costs really high? Because I don't think it's high to have to spend 4K on EKS per month.
I mean,
With a 3 million budget, per year, do we want to consider EKS spending 4K per month is a high cost?
well, to be honest, still to me, I know that we have a plenty of budget, but 20K per month for 20 nodes cluster is like still a bit high. So we want to take a look at that, but it is not a priority right now. We first want to look at some other stuff, especially about security improvements and stuff like that, the IAM stuff that we are working on. But this is something that we are also planning to take a look, because let's better bring it down a little bit. We can like bring more instances instead, which can be also useful. But like if we have to scale that cluster to like 100 nodes, we could easily go over 100K monthly, which is not so nice.
Is it a bad thing or good? Is it a bad thing? Is it really that bad if we spend 100K per month on CI? Because there's the scalability test coming. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering.
So I don't know for sure. Like we will probably have enough credits, but it might be a problem as we add more workload, especially that we don't know how much workload are we going to add. Like we can definitely save on that. This is something that has a lot of space for savings because we didn't really pay much attention to cost optimization. We wanted to get it running as soon as possible. But we will see about that. Like if we can, we don't want to spend like a lot of time in that, but there are some quick wins that might be possible to accomplish in such a shorter time frame, and that might be useful to have.
Okay.
What surprises me is the price for EKS, because I don't know what is actually included in those 4K, but I thought it costs around like 10 cents per hour of running control plane. So I don't know why we have so high, why the spend is so high on EKS service.
Oh, because we have CI tests trigger creating EKS clusters. Cluster PI provider for AWS. If I remember correctly, they basically have like tests bootstrapping EKS cluster. That's why we have, and I think that's the control plane.
Okay. Yeah.
So during the migration, we basically move. We currently have, I think, 75 accounts will migrate from CNCF, and all those accounts are mainly about CI, bootstrapping a lot of things.
And also to add something, there are stuff, for example, the nodes that we are using in the EKS clusters are like $1 per hour or a bit more. So this is 20 something dollars per hour for 20 nodes. And also we have stuff like provisioned IOPS and something like that we don't really use. So that is also significant costs that we can probably just drop. And another issue that we have is networking, like net gateways and such stuff tends to cost a lot. So we might want to look into maybe optimizing on that a little bit.
Okay. Okay. To your question, Luca, there's no control to avoid overspending currently. There is like, we have currently basic alerting regarding costs. I think that's it. Now we can, I think the AWS API can help us. We can set up some policy preventing Bootstrap new resources to like make sure we don't overspend it. But before we do all of this, I think we can like start moving some CI and see what exactly happening. Because currently we have like, yeah, the Kappa test plus some other tests like Minikube and stuff like we currently use. Now, if we move some CI from GCP to AWS, we might see cost increase, and that's going to help us establish the baseline of cost per month. And from that, we can basically say, what's the threshold monthly for AWS? I think before we jump on cost optimization, we want to establish a trend in terms of cost, because right now it's like, it's really random.
It does seem like something to keep an eye on, though, given that we should be at fairly small scale, though. And that is generally how we maintain, cost controls. Just we talk about the bill here and keep an eye on things. Same on GCP. We have auto scaling on this cluster. If we don't, then I feel like that would be the thing to invest in.
All the clusters have auto scaling.
Okay.
So that like, that's what I'm saying. Currently, there's no baseline. It's really hard to establish a baseline. So we need to make sure existing brown build cluster is ready, so we can do migration of some of the CI before code freeze. Yeah, before code freeze for 128.
It would also be nice if we could break down like where the usage is coming from better. On the GCP billing reports, we're able to look at which GCP projects the resources are being consumed in instead of just the kind of resources being consumed. It seems like we don't have a very good answer for that on AWS currently.
Yeah, we talk about this many times, like about reporting on AWS. So I think JP has a plan for that. I will leave him drive this and try to come up with some reporting around how we can break down costs between AWS account, AWS services, and possible group of resources, like how we can identify, well, I would say, resource used for a specific SIG or project.
In theory, we have some support from people at Amazon. Can we talk to them about this? Because I mean, surely there has to be something for this. There has to be some way to label like sub accounts or something and display that. I hope we don't actually have to build something for that. Like I can just pull up the cloud billing report in Cloud Console and see this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know Jeff is driving this. He's supposed to talk to some AWS folks about this. Like, now, do we want to make that a priority for now for 128? Or do we want to just make sure we keep AWS folks about this?
I mean, I feel like if there's anything we need to change about how we spin up infrastructure, for example, if they need to be in different sub accounts or something like that, we need to get a handle on that before we spin up too much stuff. Because eventually this is going to be a problem. We need to be able to actually identify where the spend is going.
It's
and as soon as
more
we start
like
running E2E CI, you're not going to be able to distinguish EC2 from the CI itself from the E2E clusters.
oh, that's why there's an issue about tag policy, and we are working on that. It just takes some time to implement the correct policy around this, but there's an issue somewhere about tag policy, and we started doing some. We have introduced a few tags to make that happen. We just now need to tag everything doing account creation and also resource creation, which is not done currently.
Well, that sounds like something we should be keeping in mind as we migrate things to make
Yep.
sure that we're tagging it. That's the sort of thing I was fishing for, is like whatever the solution is to be able to break down the cost, we should have that in mind. Because like, for example, in GCP, if I could go back, I would say we should have split more things into more projects. So it's clear, like there's too many things in K8s Artifacts prod, and luckily they're mostly on different services, but keeping things in different projects as the GCP equivalent has been really helpful for figuring out where we have excessive costs. And as we spin up things on Amazon, we're going to want to be able to do the same thing. And right now, when we look at the reports, we can't do that.
Okay, let's have another conversation about this when Chief is around, and possibly Teams. So that's many events. I'm tagging you to remind us at next meeting about this if Teams or Chief is around.
Sounds good. I'll drop them a note as well.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Taryn, right now we don't see things by account. So if there's some way to do that in the UI, then that might be sufficient, because we do have things somewhat broken into accounts.
You look group by dimension linking account, and you can see everything by account.
Okay. Yeah, I'm certainly not an expert in the billing side of things, but
I think there's a way to basically have those as a template also regarding. I never really wanted to do advanced usage of Cost Explorer, but it's possible to have breakdown per account.
This
And you
seems
can-
reasonable enough. Can we just bring this up when we discuss the AWS costs in the meetings?
Just this view.
Yeah, because
Okay.
now I can tell you, like, okay, so the registry is this much, and that looks like this K8s Infra Pro must be the CI cluster. Like that's a much more informative view than going by the services.
Well, I think well, it's about basically which information you want to get from all this data. It's really, yeah.
Well, we want to identify which parts of the project are using a reasonable amount of spend or not. So like, I'm not surprised that running the registry is a little bit expensive and it looks in line with reasonable costs. But if K8s Infra Pro suddenly cost like 10x, then I would want to know. And it doesn't really matter which service that flags that this is the part of the project we need to go look at.
Okay. There's like nothing in the open discussion, so I'm gonna call out this meeting.
Did we have a discussion about the outage? That feels like that might be a good topic if people have time.
Oh, I see Antonio.
I have a
calls
question
on that.
for you, Ben. So the
Can
group
we,
outside is
before,
yeah, go ahead.
Mohammed, wait. We want to have a conversation about outage first.
Yeah,
I
it's
mean,
outage. Yeah, I'm not talking about anything else.
Yeah. So
I'm not talking
I want to
about
get consensus in the room about this. Like, do we want to have a conversation about this? I don't see +1 in the chat.
I can meet with folks out of band.
Okay.
There's one in the chat, and I guess Mohammed, but
I think we should probably talk about how we can fail over automatically in the future when this happens.
yeah.
Okay, so let's then give an update, have my question and Eddie question.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'd be happy to hear Mohammed's question up front.
All right. So the Google Class page, there's information in there, pretty useless with regards to global systems, right? One thing that Google, for example, hasn't answered is have they mitigated problems with the Google Cloud load balancers? That's the thing that's given us the biggest grief right now for this particular project. For another project, there's some other fun problems going on with the global components. So did you hear anything about the Google Cloud load balancers mitigations being done to them so that they can actually work in Europe?
I'm trying to find the link. There was a service entry like incident entry specific to the global load balancer.
I don't see one. I've got it in front of me here somewhere.
Yeah, I think there's like distinct things. You couldn't configure it at all briefly. That is mitigated. The thing that we're running into is that we have it configured, but somewhere in there we're still seeing traffic that would have been routed to the Paris backend previously isn't being routed properly. I'm actually not completely clear. What I'm seeing is that we're getting a 503 from backend, which makes me think it's still trying to route to the to there. But I think that may be that the control plane is back, but the data plane isn't back for Paris, because I think it's public. GCLB is like a broad edge that's any cast. So I think what we're encountering as a project is the edge that is affected is still broken for us in that area. So even if you're not on GCP, because the traffic is still coming into Paris and the Paris data center is having problems, that's not getting updated to route somewhere else. For the traffic in other regions, it is updated now, and from what I can tell, if you hit any other GCP region, it won't get routed to the Paris region, even if we're not running there. It'll get routed to one of the other regions now. So the problem is the traffic that's actually trying to enter through that data center, best I can tell. And so to Eddie's question, that is my question. Is there anything else we can do to make sure that that traffic would have failed over? Because generally speaking, this is what happens. So we have a GCLB configured. With the GCLB, we have a scope for each region that we're operating in the network endpoint groups that then points to a Cloud Run in the same region. So when you hit the GCLB, you're going to enter it through like the nearest Google location, and then it should get routed by our routing map, and our routing map says, you know, these are the regions we're in, route to a service in that region. So even if a region isn't automatically removed, we can do what we did today and remove region. Arnaud had problems with that earlier because the control plane had an outage when this region had an outage. That's fixed. That didn't persist very long. What we've seen is there's still some transient errors, and it seems that the data plane is still not updating in that area. I don't know if there's anything more we can do about that as an end user.
Yeah, but Google didn't quite make it clear that there was control plane failures. When you read this outage, on first glance, you'd think, oh, Google just disconnected a region and they fix it now, right? But that's not exactly what happened, though. It's global components that shouldn't be failing were failing for a very long periods of time.
There's multiple different instances here. The last one I linked is the one that's relevant for the control plane for GCLB.
I think also like Ben, we should emphasize you are doing a good job of speaking as a member of the community that happens to have like, you know, access to more stuff, but you are not like revealing inside information, and you're not speaking as a Googler here. Like this is what these are the things that we have observed in registry K8s.io, right? This is not like the GCLB update, and I don't think we have any particular insight into what's going on exactly there beyond the status page. I don't think it's fair to ask Ben. I don't think it's fair to ask Ben also to comment on that, because he will get into trouble.
No, I know. I'm not expecting that.
I can point that there are multiple different status entries, and they affect different things. The one for the control plane for GCLB specifically is that last link, and that is considered resolved. And you can see that
That's
the time window for
last
that
year,
was for about.
You sure you got the right link?
Sorry.
That is about an outage last year.
It's linking to
Yeah.
22.
Yeah, it's 22.
I'm sorry, I've lost track. I'll dig for that.
All right, that's fine. So because that's the first people are going to ask us, right? Google had an outage. We lost a region. It's happened before. It happened last year. London was gone for a while. But you'd expect the control plane to be buggy for a few hours and then for it to be resolved.
I mean, there's only so much I can say about that.
Oh, I know, but
like I do
I'm
know more,
expecting
but
I'm expecting you. Hey, here's a feature request. Can you go and send it off to somebody?
There will be plenty of follow up. Don't worry.
I mean, I also can't do a whole lot about that. Like, I'm just a software engineer there. I'm largely participating here as a community member, which Google staffing, but I'm still like the rest of the group. I'm still largely on the user side when we're talking here. I'm going to be talking to some people that have more knowledge of GCP networking about what our options are and taking advantage of that. But for things like, hey, report service outages better. I mean, I'm certainly complaining, but that doesn't carry in. That honestly doesn't carry more weight than if you complain as a customer. People are aware that there's problems here. Our incident tracker is lit up.
Yeah, sounds good.
I mean, yeah, in the case of data center is partially underwater, yeah, that's causing some problems. I really hope that we can do more to route around it, and I'm not, like, as an end user, not thrilled about that, but I'm also still trying to confirm if there's anything that that we aren't doing in the configuration. Like, I don't see that we have any health checks, for example. It looks like that might be a thing.
Negs don't support health checks, which makes
the serverless backend group has a field for it.
Oh, serverless Negs never had health checks from day one. So you were never able to remove a dodgy Cloud Run service from serving traffic. Which is a big gap in the product, but
yeah. Well, and if the product can't do that, then we can look at what we can do as besides the bug as a user. We could probably operate something ourselves that auto updated removed it from the group or something. And we've manually removed the one. So my bigger concern is that we've removed the group, but I still see errors, and I've attempted to investigate that. I don't have a better answer at the moment, just my theory from what I'm observing. And I'm going to be asking someone who actually has more expertise on one of GK's networking teams to lend some time to this. We're originally going to be talking about the cloud provider removal and how we can help get that testing running. But we've talked to them, so we're going to punt that, and we're going to discuss mainly like what else can we do here. And you all know them. Most of you probably. Antonio works on GK networking now, and from GK's side, GCLB is one of their things. So I'm going to be picking Antonio's brain a bit about GCLB and what else we can do there. I've also clarified to users that this thing has no SLA, and this is a good reminder to mirror if uptime in a particular region is really important to you. Otherwise, you can pull from another region and we're fine. As far as I can tell, between like whatever provider you use, proximity to the GCP region is a problem because we have a global load balancer. I think it's not super reasonable for us to try to like run multiple cloud load balancers or something. And something like this can happen. We can have an outage for a region. We'll do our best to react to it. But if you need higher uptime guarantees than that is there, as a global service, it is still largely available. And that's working as intended. The other thing I'd like to do is roll out to more regions, but I think we're blocked on concerns with the image promoter. So I think there's still more to do to make the image promoter scale better so we can spin up more regions. We could have an even smaller subset of traffic routed to any particular region if we finished adopting all of the available regions. We're in a lot of them, but we stopped adding more because the image promoter's been struggling.
Well, I think Adolfo optimized that thing very well nowadays.
I've been talking to Adolfo about that. I think we're maybe still not at a point where be super comfortable with it, but we should revisit. And if not, I just felt like there's a few more things we can do there. There's been some improvement to cosign recently. John had to quit working on this, but we have a couple more pointers from John.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'll definitely pass along that we'd like to know more about what happened and what we could do there, and I'll be talking to Antonio about what else we can do to configure the load balancer better or to route around that sort of thing. One other thing we have to consider is we probably don't want like super excessive failover. Like as an extreme example, if we stopped serving traffic out of US East and Amazon, our bill would go through the roof. If there's an S3 outage in US East, we probably just need to tank it and not try to route around it. That like we really want to be serving that sort of thing in region, and that's more or less what's happening here. Is that we have 20 GCP regions currently, and one of them is impacted, and the rest of the traffic is fine.
I mean, it's not quite that, right? You just not yeah, well, the artifact registry is unavailable, by the way, which is one impact. The other problem is people can't even pull from S3 because nobody can access Google Cloud Services in France at all.
Right, but what I'm saying is only the traffic that went to that, out of the 20 places that we route through, only the traffic that's hitting that one is affected. If you are running in another Europe region on any provider, then and you're getting routed to another region, then you're not impacted.
But
Mario?
that's not happening though, is what I'm saying.
Mario's got his hand up.
We've tested that.
Can you say that again?
So yeah, so basically, I mean, we still state everywhere that if you are really, really reliant on everything, then you should have a registry duplicated somewhere in your own infrastructure. And I mean, the downtime that we had or the downtime that we have is basically fairly reduced now to one region. Yes, it's still bad, but I don't think that we should stress this too much that there was an outage.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we had a confirmation from Marco earlier that if you're running in if you move to another region in EU on AWS, then you'll see what you would see on GCP. You'll get routed to a different region. You'll be fine. It's the subset of traffic that's close enough that out of the 20 GCP regions, it gets routed to the Paris region, whether or not it's on GCP. And if we expand to more regions, that'll be another way that will improve our, failure domains. But I think it's mostly working relatively as intended right now. And we'll have, like, even if we do expand failover, we have to be careful with that, because the whole intention here is that you are served out of the closest region, and that's good for users globally, so we don't have a sudden spike or cost increase for one of the regions. And if one out of the 20 regions going down is a problem for you, then you're a really good candidate to host a mirror.
Okay. Is there any other questions regarding the outage? Okay, we can wrap it up here then. Thanks everyone. I'm sure we'll be following up in Slack on all this stuff. See you around.
Have a great evening. Bye, folks.